All right, welcome in everybody to the Important Nonsense Podcast. Steve Bonham, Neil Smith, Mike Manning, 32 and 32 today. The Houston Texans, unfortunately.
Boy,
Sad times.
that should be the actual team motto.
Mhm.
Put that on the stadium.
That's like the tagline.
Yeah,
It's
it's
like
exactly.
Houston
That's the tag.
Texans, and then it says unfortunately, and then
Unfortunately,
the team comes running out,
yeah.
and they hit one of those paper banners, and they all bounce off and fall over.
Well, then they also play the sad trombone.
Slide whistles. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. It's a circus down there. Again, recording this on July 27th. So if any of this information is outdated, that is why. I don't know what could possibly be outdated about the Texans. What the hell are they going to do between now and August 26th? But who knows? Maybe something. Doubt it, but who knows? Also, 12-team PPR, so 2 or 3 wide receivers and a flex. That is what we are working with. So if any of our numbers, projections, anything don't make sense to you, that would probably be why. Adjust accordingly. Patreon.com/important nonsense. You can sign up, hop in the Discord, ask us questions, hang out, have a great time in there, and also get these videos 2 days early. So again, if you were planning accordingly, you're in the Patreon, you're watching basically everything early except this one, and then you can just catch up live, just skip right past it, don't even have to worry about it, and you're golden brown and crispy. Unfortunately, we can't do that. We have to live in a universe where we
real quick,
talk about
at the $3 level or higher, you can also get our rankings. All 3 of us. So
yes.
you can actually see the madness that we're going to talk about here and use that to help draft
the updated ones as well. So again, if our rankings here are out of date, you can have the live rankings going as well. The $5 tier is where you get the projections and the stat book from Dave Fiorella. And
stat book is invaluable. That's a screaming deal at the $5 a month level.
So we start at the top with quarterback. They have a type. Davis Mills, Kyle Allen, Jeff Driscoll. They were going down one path and they veered completely the other direction, decided, nope, we're going this way now. And it's the Davis Mills show currently. He got an opportunity last season. He looked okay. He had some moments, not for fantasy purposes, but for NFL purposes, much like Kyle Allen, who is now his backup. He had some decent NFL moments, not really fantasy noteworthy, but okay. He's got upside compared to some of the other people in his ADP range, but all of us have him basically out of Superflex starting range. So is there anybody that would like to pound the table for, hey, take a flyer on Davis Mills in your Superflex league?
No, the nerd's not here. The nerd's not here. And if you'd like his opinions, remember that Patreon thing we were just talking about? Sign up for that. He'll be more than happy to pound the table about Davis Mills for you. I will say, Davis Mills, he looked like a professional NFL quarterback by the end. That's the nicest thing I can say about it. He looked like he was competent. He was starting to get his feet under him. He looked like a pro. And that's really all you can ask for a third-round rookie that didn't get a lot of the reps to open the year and kind of got tossed in after the final experiment went ping. And this is all they had left, and they were like, go nuts, kid. Have fun. We're going to be bad anyway. So I will say, if he can play at that level, he should be good enough to maintain whatever meager skill position players you might be interested in as we go through this sludge bucket here in a moment. So Davis Mills, maybe in a super flex league, you could be okay. But if you're in a redraft league, I'm so sorry. If you've made it this far down the page, you've waited too long because there's too many negative markers. Because if things start to slide sideways, you're going to be looking.
He's going undrafted in a standard league.
Right, as he should be.
QB 25. So even talking super flex, like you're really in the territory at that point where it's super flex. I should be playing a second quarterback, but given my options, do I really want to? Should I just play a 5th wide receiver and be okay with that? That's kind of the territory you're in. But I mean, yeah, and he could have some okay weeks. He could be slightly usable at some point. It's just not, there's no ringing endorsement at all.
He's a name to know on your waiver wire as we get into the buys.
Sure.
That's what I will say. Mike, do you have anything positive to say about Davis Mills? Because I'd rather we not take a take 15 minutes to just take a dump on the man because he hasn't really deserved that.
No, and as you said, like he showed glimpses of actual solid NFL play, especially for where he was drafted and everything else. He was a highly recruited player going into Stanford, and then had some various knee injuries and stuff like that. But
yeah,
so he's a good player that's going to at least steer the ship with the fantasy players that you will find onto your lineup when it comes to the rest of the Texans offense. Bye week filler, he's going to have good matchups when it comes to defenses. I mean, he's going to obviously play the Jacksonville Jaguars twice.
Yep.
Neil mentioned the streamer.
Yeah.
Like you said, last year he didn't play a lot at the beginning. He got some reps after Tyrod Taylor got hurt, but then he was out himself with an injury for a few weeks. But weeks 13 through 18, he played their last 6 games of the season. 4 of those 6 games, he had 15 or more fantasy points. So at the end of the year, once he got his legs underneath him, he was a serviceable streamer if you were desperate for a QB streamer. So upside-ish.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's like know what it is, but I wouldn't get too excited about it.
It's one of those things where I feel like, again, talking super flex, his ceiling, his upside is like top 15. To hit like 13, 14, that's like the ceiling in fantasy. And
let's just say we're not going to stick our neck out for him.
No,
not doing that.
Yeah, very good. Very good. Running back. Marlon Mack, the ghost of Marlon Mack, still haunting the NFL. Rex Burkhead, and the reason that we employ Jack so gainfully is because he properly has Dameon Pierce listed as the backup and not the starter or the running back that you would want in this offense. The amount of Dameon Pierce hype I have had to endure this offseason has been rough.
Yeah, you might get some more of it here before the show's over. I pulled these numbers, so I'm not going to bury the lead, but it ain't going to be coming from me. I'll just say that right now.
So Marlon Mack should be fully healthy now after recovering from his Achilles injury. So he had the injury 2 years ago, came back last year, was the backup-ish to Jonathan Taylor. They were exploring a trade, trying to see if anyone would take him, if he could play for another organization. Nobody wanted to acquire him on the contract he was on, and the Colts, trying to make a push for the playoffs, didn't want to just outright cut him because they wanted the depth at running back. Can't really blame him there. But he ended up basically sitting on the bench for a vast majority of the season. But he still has the ability. He still has his legs underneath him, and like he's fresh, right? There you go. Go with that.
Yeah. We could play that narrative game. Yeah.
But to me, of all the guys you see listed here, Marlon Mack, Dameon Pierce, Rex Burkhead, also they still have Dara Gumbawale. And I believe they still have Royce Freeman lurking around there as well. They've taken everybody else's garbage at running back and collected it all, and they're trying to recycle it into something useful. To me, Marlon Mack is the best of the bunch. I think he is the clear starting running back. I agree with Jack for sure that Rex Burkhead is the third down back. He's the pass catching back. That has never been Marlon Mack's thing. He has never been a full workload guy. So he's going to be the between the tackles guy. He should be the goal line-ish back, but the question for him has been health. Can he stay healthy? And of this rotation that they have at running back, how many touches does he actually end up with?
Sure. I see this a little bit differently. I know because you've got Marlon Mack at 36. I've got him at 54. Mike, you're in the middle at 43. My issue with Marlon Mack is a couple things. One, the injuries, as you mentioned, that's just we've talked about this a million times. Injury prone's a myth, but he has proven to not be the most durable guy ever. And the other, and some of that's kind of fluky, so I can't hold it too much against him, but it is something to consider. The more relevant things here for me are, you mentioned it, Marlon Mack does not really catch passes. That is not his skill set. He's much more of a true running back. And what scares me about this team is last year they were terrible running the football with a capital T. They have a lot of factors working against them in that regard. Their O-line is bad. But also, they they struggle to move the ball in a coherent manner, and their defense is atrocious because they're going to be playing the game script should be working against these guys all year long. So my question becomes, sure, you have Marlon Mack, but how many actual meaningful touches does he get before you just abandon the running game entirely to try and actually, because you're playing from behind and you're basically in hurry up for the entire second half of the game. So that's what caps Marlon Mack for me. It's the durability stuff, but it's all those other markers. It's the lack of pass catching and the bad defense, negative game script that they should be playing from behind all year long. The one for me that I'm actually interested in is Rex Burkhead, despite the fact that he's 32. And we could, just as a chip in for that, Rex Burkhead is the highest paid running back on the team. And they gave him that contract extension right at the end of last year after he was coming off 4 solid games in a row for them, doing exactly what I was describing. They were behind. They had nobody else healthy. And he was on the field the entire time. He was catching the passes. He was getting a lot of the actual traditional running work. They were using him in the red zone. Some of that may fall off, so I've lowered him accordingly. But as far as for PPR, he's the one I want. And because of how little people think of him, and I get why, he's 32 on a bad team. But for what you have to invest for what you could actually get, Rex Burkhead is the one that I want. Now, granted, I think there's a limited shelf life on this. Otherwise, I'd have him higher.
Yeah.
I'm not convinced he's going to get the whole season for you. And if they're going to try and get him to play at that clip he was playing at the end of last year, you're probably going to get him killed. But for those first 4 to 6 weeks of the season, man, do I think he could be useful for you until something inevitably goes ping. That's how I break this down. And then I think, Steve, you and I, we'll talk about Pierce separately, I think. But
sure.
So, Mike, what do you think about anything that we just talked about as it relates to Mack and Burkhead?
I just think that Mack has, obviously, he's not going to have a huge ceiling in terms of, 1, this offense, and 2, what we've said his role is going to be. But I do think that he is going to lead the backfield in overall touches if he stays healthy. So you're going to get the RB1 of this Houston Texans offense. So if you sit there and say that Burkhead is going to miss time, that work's not going to Mack, but I think it just doesn't go to really anybody else in general after that. If Dameon Pierce it doesn't actually show anything by that point. Say it's an early injury, whatever else. So Mack is just at his ADP, you are going to get a good floor. I think.
You will get a floor. I can see
so
that.
If you're going to sit there and have him be your RB4 or your RB5, are you going to be upset? Probably not.
No.
You're probably going to get what you expect out of whatever your RB4 or 5 would be drafted as.
Yeah.
And I just don't like Rex Burkhead very much at all. I understand that he's had the couple good games last season, but I think that this coaching staff is going to want to run the ball a lot. Burkhead had 1 good game in terms of on the ground. Everything else was below 3 yards per carry.
And he caught a ton of passes.
And I don't know if he's going to continue doing that. I honestly think that this head coaching staff is not going to focus the running backs when it comes to the passing game. I don't think it's going to be a part of the scheme. It never was for Lovie Smith really in general. So I think that he's going to want to hammer the ball behind
this. Talking to 2 sad Bears fans. If there's anything we know, it's Lovie ball.
Yeah, I was saying we know how Lovie Smith calls a game.
So I just don't think that Burkhead has nearly as much upside as what could be a plotter / end zone producer type running back in Marlon Mack.
So what I would say about that, unless you got something, Neil.
All I was going to say is I was going to run through the numbers at that point, but finish your thought, please, and then I'll cap up with the numbers.
So Marlon Mack, I have projected at about RB 40, and then Burkhead about 46, 47. And again, that's because I have him as the third down back, the pass catcher. And to what you were saying, Neil, so 2019, Marlon Mack, the last time he played a majority of a season, he played 14 games that year. But he only had 17 targets, not used at all in the passing game, and was RB22 in PPR. So that's really the ceiling you're looking at in terms of, his career arc and his usage in this offense is if he gets all the rushing work, not even all the rushing work, just a majority of the rushing work and the goal line carries, that he could end up as a back end RB2. That's your ceiling for a guy that right now at ADP is going running back 52. Burkhead's going 50 or 67. So he's even more of a screaming value to get much later, whereas Dameon Pierce is going RB 45.
We'll talk about Pierce
in a shiny new toy that everybody would rather have than the two of these guys, which is, like I said, these are the guys I feel like both have a shot to have a legitimate role in this offense that you can get at a severe discount and can be usable bye-week streamers for you weekly.
Yeah, so at that ADP for Mac, I could live with it. It's fine. I'm not excited about this in any way, by the way, and I'd much rather Burkhead, because especially if we're talking about PPR, and I'll go to my grave on that hill. That's fine. But as we talk about our rankings, Steve, you have Mac at 36, and I can understand why, because you just went through the numbers. It's pretty cut and dry. If he can just manage to get through the season, and they're not a total dumpster fire, yeah, he's a RB3 low end flex RB type of situation. I've got him at 54 because I'm just terrified that even if he gets all the work, that they could just be so bad and so out of these games that it literally won't matter because he's only really playing the first quarter of the game. Mike, you split us at 43. ECR is closer to me at 54, and that's more or less in line with his ADP. With Burkhead, Steve, you've got him at 43. I've got him at 45. Mike, you've got him at 70. And I will say, Mike's the one. He
did say he does not like Rex Burkhead.
That's why I wanted to illustrate it, because it's very clear what your feelings on Rex Burkhead are. It's right there on the page. I will say ECR agrees with you in this case, Mike. They've got him at 72. I understand the trepidation. I also understand that he played a few good games last year, could actually sum up Rex Burkhead's entire NFL career. Because I've seen him do that in Cincinnati. I've seen him do it in New England, and I saw him do it with the Texans last year. He periodically throughout his career will come in and play 3 or 4 good games in a row, inevitably gets hurt, and then that's the end of it. My only counter argument to that is I don't care if that's what he does this year, because I can get him at the end of my draft. I can get him on a waiver wire. Like this is like free money on the ground. Now it's a limited shelf life, obviously, because I do not think he gets through the whole season. But that's my stance on the matter. Do you want to nitpick anything I just said before we go into Dameon Pierce, or you just want me to get out of your way and give you the floor to talk about Dameon Pierce? Because those are your choices. I'll give you one or the other.
I mean, if you're looking at, like you said, for Burkhead, though, so his big receiving stats, okay, he had from week 12 on, we had 27 yards, 15 yards, 26 yards, 6, 0, 32, and 45. So, like, these aren't, as you said, he's going to get massive receiving work.
Didn't say anything about yards.
He's getting targets.
He's going to get targets.
Even the
meaningful targets.
Even the targets aren't great.
That's still not massive.
3,
2, 4, 3, 2. He had 6, and then he had 3. So, like, even the targets aren't really coming at much. So the work in general isn't as upside as I think that you're portraying.
Nothing in this backfield is good.
No,
that's the point.
And by the way, when I say massive, I've got him at RB 45, Mike. Let's not lose context here, okay? I don't want to lose context and start talking about this like it actually super matters. It doesn't.
To be fair, you're also saying let's get out of the way and let him make his case for Pierce, but he's right in line with ADP and ECR with Pierce. So it's not like he's crazy high on him.
That's
he's just
you and I are the ones
the
who
rest
are really
of the general public.
Pierce. Yeah.
So give us the general public perspective on Dameon Pierce, Mike, because we're back here hating it.
It's not like a bright scenario by any means, but this is a all-around running back selected in the 4th round. Obviously, it's not, there's not a lot of hits there, but would it be, as we see, he's the backup for both. If either one of these two, neither one, great bills of health, goes down, Pierce is the guy that's going to probably step into that role. What happens if both go down?
Right.
Pierce is going to step into a likely pretty big workload. And if either one starts to slow down, which could easily happen, Pierce isn't going to have to do anything crazy to ask or to show he deserves more work. So it's like what you said earlier in the Buffalo Bills episode, where we were saying about Duke Johnson being the nice little late like flyer to keep an eye on, because he's who would step in for either one, or possibly both if the backfield just becomes the Baltimore Ravens of 2021. So I think that's what a lot of people in the public, and what I see as, I'm probably not going to draft him as high as a lot of these, as the ECR is even going, or as I have him right now, but that's what it's looking like. So that's the chance of a future that's bright-ish.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there. Like, it's my Duke Johnson argument, but my Duke Johnson argument still had Duke Johnson at like running back 70.
Yeah, it's a much more expensive version.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
Right now, that. Dameon Pierce at ADP is going in literally the same neighborhood as James Cook, who we talked about in the Bills episode.
That's not
Alexander Madison.
Oh no, I'd much rather
like getting the potential to get that workload.
Yeah.
Naheem Hines, Cordarrelle Patterson.
Oh, gee. Okay.
Daryl Henderson.
That's a starter. That's just left it down there. Okay.
I would never.
Tyler Algier, Kenny Gainwell. These are all the guys going in the same neighborhood as.
Some of those names borderline made sense. There were some weird outliers in that little list you have there.
But basically everyone I list. J.D. McKissick is another one.
We'll get to that. You and I.
These are all guys that have at least a role or have the upside to be the guy on their team. Whereas even if Dameon Pierce became 100% the guy on his team, I'm not convinced he's good enough to matter from a fantasy perspective, just from a pure talent perspective. But the role as is, I want no part of. And I think that's pretty much it. Everybody beyond that on the depth chart, useless. Not even worth mentioning.
I can't believe we even mentioned Derek Gumbawali at one point in there. And this is like the Bears wide receiver core. It's like they go and get everybody's retreads and try and glue it together and see if you can get something to go. My Italian evaluation of Pierce was similar to yours. I was just not impressed by him coming into the league. So he's a guy for me that suddenly went John Madden. Here's a guy who's just going to have to prove it to me. Like, he's going to have to prove to me that he can actually do anything. I'm just not sold on the body of work, the skill set, the situation. There's too many negative markers. And if you're telling me that he's going in that range where Cook is going, the Patterson one was mind-blowing.
Yeah.
But let's take that off to one side, because that's something, I think the computer's broken. Or something's not right about that. But there's a couple other names in there that it's like, no, those are individuals that I would be much happier with.
Yep.
Like Madison, especially. Whether or not I have Cook, I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, I'd be much happier with that in that situation. So we've spent more time talking about nothing in this running back room than I think we've ever done on any show possible.
Wide receiver.
Yeah.
Nico
better.
Collins is the X. Brandin Cooks is the Z. This was, as of this morning, Jack has not updated it, but John Mechie, of course, is going to miss this season. He announced he's got a treatable form of leukemia, but he will be out on the non-injury list this year.
We wish John Mechie well, by the way. Hopefully he gets the treatment he
100%.
needs and can come back next year, and good luck to him. That's
so the way we have the slot set up here is that Chad Beebe probably is going to move into that slot role. I think Nico Collins also has a chance to rotate into that. I definitely believe Chris Conley is going to find his way onto the field more as well.
Sure.
Again, he's one of the higher paid guys they have on this offense that's saying something. They really liked him in free agency last season. So he will get more of a role than I think the depth chart would lead you to believe here. But for me, it's Brandin Cooks and no one else. I don't care about literally any of it. Nico Collins is an interesting story. The second year wide receiver, can he get that connection with Davis Mills? Can he have a bounce back year this year? Possibly, but I don't think it matters. Again, he just didn't evaluate very well for me last season. I didn't think he was worth the pick that they spent on him, and he didn't have a great rookie year. So now, I mean, we'll see. We'll see if year 2 is any better, but it's got to be Brandin Cooks to the moon again, right?
That's how I have it. It's Brandin Cooks and nothing else, almost verbatim what you just said. Not interested in Nico Collins. Nice story. Not a fantasy player that I'm interested in rostering at any point. John Mechie was the one thing that I thought we might talk about. And then, of course, what happened. So it's off the table. There's nothing else that's even worth rostering. And I would argue that unless somebody proves it to you, there's nothing even really to know for the waiver wire. It's Brandin Cooks. And beyond that, I'm not interested in anything else. And Steve, you've got Brandin Cooks at 22. Mike's got him at 21. I've got him at 17. The ECR's got him at 18. That's not really enough to merit.
I think that's the only discussion here about the wide receiver room. Right now, Brandin Cooks' ADP is wide receiver 20. So the way we have him ranked is that's, basically you're paying sticker price, but I feel pretty comfortable with it, right? Like I talk about not drafting players at their ceiling, like a broken record. But to me, he has the upside. I'm not going to get into the nerd and top 12 Brandin Cooks territory, but I think he's a solid floor wide receiver too. And for me, he fits into a very narrow, weird window where I think he's basically got a ceiling right now of like wide receiver 16, but a floor of like wide receiver 30. And it's like he's going to land somewhere in there. I just don't know where exactly he lands in there, which is why I have him right at 22. So, I mean, if I can get him at ADP, I'll feel good about it as my wide receiver 2 or 3, depending on how my draft is going.
Same.
Yeah. I can't really argue with that. I mean, he's hit 1,000 yards in 6 of the last 7 seasons. And it's been with 4 different teams.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, like, he is the epitome of consistency, no matter where he's at. And Davis Mills immediately locked onto him whenever he became the starter.
Yep.
Why wouldn't you?
He saw that, and that was it.
Yeah.
So you know what you're going to get. The offense isn't going to allow for anything extravagant. But like you said, there's not too many wide receivers that have that small of a window.
Yep.
That you know what you're getting this season.
Yeah. Feel pretty good about it, right?
Yeah, your range of outcomes is very small.
All right. Tight end. So that's it. That's it for the Texans. We will wrap the show, and we are good to go.
Have a week, everybody.
You got Pharaoh Brown, you got Brevin Jordan, and yeah, not even in the deepest of deep leagues do you want either one of these guys for me. Like right now, the highest rated is I think Brevin Jordan.
It is Brevin Jordan.
Yeah, and that's more of, again, you're in the dart throw touchdown territory. Can he catch a touchdown this week? Maybe. Yes. No. And then that's it. Does he give you a 0 or does he give you a 7 because it was one catch for a 5-yard touchdown? That's it. That's basically what you're looking at tight end on this team. It's nothing to talk about.
If you've made it that far down and you're considering looking at that, I'm sorry, you've waited too long. And how many teams are in your league?
Yeah.
Like 16 to get to here? Because there's nothing here. And then do you have any interest in any of Mike, do you have anything nice to say about Brevin Jordan? Because I don't think there's much to say. It's just like it's a coin flip. It's a dart throw.
Yeah, I mean, he's obviously not getting drafted. There's a reason for that. But he's a athletic tight end that people are hoping at least the Texans are hoping becomes a startable NFL tight end. He could easily take a 5-yard out or whatever it might be and run 60 yards.
Yeah.
So if you are that far, okay, cool. Take the athlete. You're taking the athlete, or you're taking the rock that sits in the end zone every time that the offense reaches down there.
Yep. That's basically it.
That guy has a name. It's called Evan Ingram.
No, his hands are the rock there.
Yeah, that's right. Defense and kicker. The defense isn't worth mentioning, and I will mention Kaime Fairbairn just because a couple years ago I took the time to learn the name Kaime Fairbairn, so I just like to just put it out there, just so I got the proper pronunciation. That's it. But you don't want him for fantasy purposes at all in any way, shape, or form.
Remember a couple
like
days
most
ago,
of this team.
Remember a couple days ago when I said the Detroit thing? You were like, "That's going to be sad," and I'm like, "No, we got that Houston show. This was infinitely sadder than the Detroit show. This was so much sadder."
Just go back to yesterday with Green Bay, and we were fantasy booking their wide receivers to try to help that roster out. There's no help in this. This is just, it's too far gone. It's over.
They could trade for Brandin Cooks. That'd be great.
Or the Packers? Yeah.
Yeah, the Packers.
That would do it, yes.
Let's just go back to playing fantasy GM.
Let's go, yeah.
That was more fun than talking about the Texans roster. 100%. Yeah, let's just do that.
That's much better.
Well, that'll wrap the Texans, and this, of course, when you go alphabetically, is the kickoff of the AFC South bubble in the middle here. So tomorrow, the Colts, talking about Matty Ice in his new territory. At least we're not talking about Carson Wentz yet. So we got that going for us.
I'm going to be sick for that show.
Yeah. We'll see what happens. He can already feel it coming on.
I got a tickle.
But that's it. Again, patreon.com/important nonsense. Get the rankings, the Discord, and get these episodes 2 days early. But until tomorrow, just keep up the nonsense.
I'm Tim Kitzer from NBA Jam and NFL Blitz, and you can find all the guys at ImportantNonsense.com. Kaboom!